All right, so hello everyone. Welcome to week 14. There is one more week to go, and we are done with the semester. So good job for those of us that have endured through the end. I do want to talk a little bit about some of the assignments submissions. So I've noticed that in assignment 6 there were not a lot of submissions last time. So what I would like to go ahead and do is I would like for you to keep on working on assignment 6 since assignment 7 builds on assignment 6 and turn in assignment 7. Now, if you didn't turn in assignment 6 but you turn in assignment 7, you can go ahead and submit that in assignment 6 Dropbox as well and write a comment saying that you submitted assignment 7 but forgot to submit assignment 6 or did not submit assignment 6. And what's going to happen is that I will go ahead and give you up to 90% of the assignment grade since assignment that builds on things, but you do have to make sure that in your assignment 7 you have assignment 6 working. So the requirements for assignment 6 is in assignment 7. So I know it's the end of the semester, a lot of things going on, and uh, the app itself didn't get any easier. So that's why I would like to offer you the opportunity to make up for those points. Again, only up to 90% of the points is what you're going to be able to get. So that means that if you met all the requirements, you could still get the A for that assignment. It's a 90. So I will post an announcement as well because I'm not sure if everybody watches these videos, but keep that in mind. And the same thing for the final. Let's say that you were not able to finish up assignment 7 on time, but you're able to turn in the final at the end. I will give you the points back for assignment 7 up to 90%. If you didn't turn in assignment 6 and assignment 7, but you turn in the final with assignment 6 and 7 sections working, then I will give you up to 90% on your assignment 6 and 7 if you turn in that final. Okay, so that should, like ease it up on some of us that maybe we're frustrated in our code. Please email me, let me know if you're having any troubles. I am more than happy to meet with you um, and see if we can troubleshoot it. Okay. All right. So with that said, um, there's only 2 more weeks of class, and assignment 7 is due on December 1st. That is a week from today. And then on the final assignment is due 10 days after that. So you're not going to get the full 2 weeks for assignment 10, and that is because of the academic calendar. So the last day of classes and lab sessions is December 10th. Okay, so by December 10th, I would like to have all of our final assignments due. Now, if for some reason you can't turn in your assignment by December 10th, I know you have, like there's reading days and things like that. Go ahead and keep on working, and I will be grading, and then um, I think by December 15th is when we have to turn in uh, our final grades. So I think by that Friday I'll still give you until the 12th to turn everything in. So on the 12th is going to be my cutoff deadline. And by then, I want to make sure that I turn in all the grades. So please make sure to get your final assignment done. There's only about 2, 3 weeks left of class, but I encourage you to finish strong. Like I said, if for some reason either actually going back from assignment 4, 5, 6, and 7, since they all build on the same application. Again, if you finish that final strong, you could still make it to the A if you turn everything working perfectly right. Okay, so 90% for every assignment that you didn't turn in before, but it's working 100%, you get 90%. And if not, it's working how it should, then you obviously you're not going to get that 90, but you could still get the points there. Okay, so again, I will make that announcement, but please work on it, make sure you get it done. And I will talk a little bit about the final assignment today since implicit intent goes into what we need for the final assignment. So assignment 7, I did do a demo last week. If you're watching this recording, you didn't get a chance to watch last week's recording, I did go through some of the code. I demoed how or what I expect for assignment 7, right? I should be done grading or I finished grading assignment 5 last night. I will make sure to catch up with assignment 6 and have it done before assignment 7 is turned in. That way you have a better um, feedback, or you have feedback on how you're doing with your assignments. Again, send me an email if you have any questions. But after the implicit intent, we're just going to have the last one is taking pictures with intent, and that's the end of the course. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So here's my PowerPoint. 1 second. All right, there we go. So we're going to start this. All right, so this is implicit intents. And again, this implicit intents, we will need it not for assignment 7, which is due in a week from today, but rather for the final assignment. And I will also go over the final assignment in a little bit. Okay, so let's go there. So we have covered explicit intents in previous topics. And we use this explicit intents to start another activity. So we pretty much, use an intent and tell it exactly what activity to start. Now we will study how to use implicit. So explicit, we tell explicitly what to use, versus implicit intents. We actually communicate with other applications from an applications to give you choices on what application to use for that activity. So for example, putting in, like in simple words, with explicit intent, we would tell what application to open it with, or how to open a file, how to open an activity, okay? Versus implicit intents, for example, if we want to share, right, we want to share a document. In this case, we want to share a glucose. We're going to go ahead and allow you to pick the activity that you want to share, or the app you want to share your information with, okay? So in an implicit intent, you describe the job that you need to do, and the operating system will start an activity in an appropriate application for you. Okay, so we let pretty much the operating system decide for you, versus in here the explicit, we tell it exactly what to do. Okay, so how are you implementing this in the criminal intent? Well, we're opening contacts and text sending apps. So in here, when we choose a subject, it opened the contacts app to be able to link them here, and then send the crime report opens the app that knows how to send text. So something to do here is to set up in criminal intent. First, you must choose the suspect and send the crime report button to a criminal detail fragments layout. Then you have to add a subject property to the crime class that will hold the name of the suspect. Finally, you'll have to create a crime report using a set of format strings. Okay, so in here, how do we add button strings? Obviously, the same way we've been doing it. In our string, in the resource layout and the string, right? We add the string crime suspect text, and then this is the ID, the string ID, and then we say the string ID shall say choose suspect or send crime report. Okay. The next thing you have to do is add the button. So we know how to add buttons. We've been doing this since day one, adding buttons. So you're gonna add in a button. And in this case, I mean, we could separate this, but yeah, let me separate them. Should have. Okay, so in here, with something like Android layout, please do ignore the, there we go. There we go. I don't want to confuse anyone here. Okay. All right, so in here, and the same thing with the bottom, right? So here we're adding the button, and we're saying it's the Android ID. So the button's ID is crime suspect. We have the layout width, layout height, and the text. Okay. And then there's another button here, and this button is to report the crime. Same layout, width to match the parent, the wrap text or the wrap content, and then the text should say crime report. Okay, so this is how we're just adding the buttons. Same way we've been adding buttons all along. Then we have to go ahead and add a suspect. So this is a property that we have to add. Where are we adding this? We're adding this in the data class. So in your glucose class, right? This is how you would be adding your extra feature that you would want for your final. Okay, so in here we have our data class, which is our table, right? So it's at entity. And then here we're just adding another variable called suspect, and it's a string, in this case a null string. So then we have to add the database migration. And how do we do that? So this is in the database.kotlin file. And in here, we're pretty much adding a version. So before the previous version, remember if your table is in any way, if the columns are modified, the entries are not the actual entries, but the actual columns of the information that we're modifying, we have to go ahead and change the version. So before we had version 1 or version 0, now we're going to have version 2 if it was version 1, okay? And then from here, the other stuff stays the same. And then we're going to go ahead and do the migration. So this allows us to add a column to a whole table, okay? So that's what we're going to be adding a suspect in, updating the whole table. So then we also have to write an override function called migrate, and then this is pretty much to alter the table. We have to add a column suspect text, which is not null by default. So then providing migration to room, how do we do this? In our crime repository constructor, right? Inside of the or after the value of database, we have to go ahead and do the dot add migration and do migration _1 _2 and then dot build. Okay. Again, so once you are modifying something from the database, a lot of files are changing, but they're minor changes. So we're just adding to these. Okay. So adding string resources as well. So in here, we're adding in this case, in the crime report, the crime was discovered on, and these are placeholders. Okay, these are placeholders to be able to pull in the information that we want to go ahead and add. Okay, so in this case, the suspect is, so in here, percent, and then $1 is the first, second, third, and or different placeholders that we're adding here. Okay, and the suspect is %s. Okay, so this is how you add placeholders in your string variables. All right, so then adding the get crime report. In here, this is part of the detail fragment or your entry fragment. We're going to go ahead and use the get string to get the suspect in this case. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and return the crime report, the title, the date string, whether it's solved or not, and the suspect, and it's a text. So then moving on to the intent class. So the intent is an object that describes the operating system something you want it to do. Okay, so the intent is the object that describes to the operating system what you want it to do. Okay, so there are data structures that specify an action as well as the data. So for example, we want media play by a service. For example, somebody sends you an audio and you get to choose what you want to open it with. You can also use broadcast and receive by one or more apps. Okay, so this is when we go ahead and like maybe do AirDrop or sharing things through Bluetooth or through wireless. Okay, so wireless transfer. All right, so then using intents to activate activities, how do we do that? Well, intents are used to activate activities, and here we have the value intent, and then we're gonna go ahead and use this, and in this case it was a cheat activity, and it was class.java. And here we have a start activity intent of an intent. And so the activity to be activated can be either names explicitly in the intent, or it can be determined through the intent resolution process. Okay, so before, remember the cheat activity, we're calling the intent directly. So we're calling the cheat activity intent directly, and then we would go ahead and call in to start that intent. Well, now we're gonna do it explicitly, right? And we're gonna determine which one or which how we want to resolve this intent. So first, in assignment 3 and earlier topics, we cover how to use explicit intent objects in order to activate activities in app development, and this is how it was done before. Um, when the activity and when the activity to be activated is not named, the system attempts to find an activity that matches the intent. This is called an intent resolution. So again, you don't specify explicitly what you want, what app you or what action you want to do. Um, the the system attempts to find the activity using intent, or and this thing that it's trying to find is called an intent resolution. Okay, so the name for that, the system itself trying to find an activity that matches the intent, is called the intent resolution. And so a process for matching intents with activities that want to receive them, that's intent resolution. And the intent filters describe which intents an activity can handle, usually specified in the Android manifest XML file. Also, the intent resolution only considers the following, and that is the action, the data, and the category. So here, parts of an implicit intent. So the action, right? So the action that you're trying to perform, they're typically constants of the intent class. For example, intent action view. So you want to go ahead to view a website, you're going to be calling the intent action view, and others. So in here, for example, we have another action call. So initiate a phone call. Action edit will go ahead and display the user to edit the data. And then action main starts the initial activity task, and with no inputs and returns outputs. Oh, sorry, no inputs and no outputs. And then the action sync synchronizes data on the server with the data on the device. So in here, we have our XML file. So we have an activity, and in this case, the name would be .browser activity. We have, sorry, so this is the manifest here. Okay, so we have the activity. Then we have the Android name of the app, which is called browser activity, and then here we have the label string, which is the name of the app. The action, right? What action we want. So we're going to have to add this in our manifest file. So the intent filter, the action, what action do we want to perform? So we want to go ahead and do an action view. We want to see something. What category is this? This is the intent category default. And what data? So the scheme is going to be HTTP, and the host is going to be www.arizona.edu. So this is how you would go ahead and set up your intent filter in your manifest. So setting an intent action to view a website, again, intent.action_view. The operating system will go ahead and launch the activity to open this app. And if it finds more than one, then the user gets to choose. So an activity would advertise itself as an appropriate activity for action view via an intent filter in the manifest. This is like, when you have your computer and based on the extension of your file, it'll automatically try to open it with a program. So for example, you have PDF and you have Acrobat installed in your system, it more than likely is going to want to open that PDF file with Acrobat. But if you don't have Acrobat, it's more than likely going to try to open it with a browser. So parts of an implicit intent continued. So we have the data. The data is the location of any data. So this can be something outside your device, like a website or a website URL. It could also be a URI to the file. So URI is pretty much a pointer that tells us where the data is, where the record is in the content provider. The type. So the type is the type of data that the action is for. So this is the MIME type, so like text, XML, audio, MP3, etc., etc. So if an intent includes a location for data, then the type can usually be inferred from that data. So then categories, right? And if the action is used to describe what to do, then the category usually describes where, when, or how you're trying to use an activity. So Android uses something called categories, and how it uses Android.intent.category launcher to indicate what activity should be displayed, or indicate that an activity should be displayed in the top level app launcher. And so Android intent category default category indicates the activity that should be an option for the default action on the piece of data. So here, for example, again, going back to the manifest, we have an intent filter, and we saw this before, right? So we saw Android intent action view. So we want to go ahead and view this, and the category is default, and then the data is HTTP, and then the host is www.bignerdranch.com. So some extras, additional information associated with the intent are treated as key value pairs. So setting the extra attribute comes in several forms depending on the type of that it's involved. So put extra, for example, in here we're going to go ahead and add the name and a value, and they're both string values or string types. And so in here we can go ahead and add an extra email. So in here we would have email addresses to send an email message to. So in here we would be going ahead and doing a new intent. So new intent, and we're going to go ahead and do an action. So action send, go ahead and send an action. Put extra, what are we going to put there? We're going to put in the Android content intent extra email, and we're going to do an array, right? So in this case, it could be lux@email.arizona.edu or joe@email.arizona.edu. So now sending a crime report, to do this, we're going to go ahead and edit the detail fragment. We're going to go ahead and do or use the on-click listener. We're going to create a value called report intent, call in the intent action send. What are we going to send? We're going to apply a text plane. We're going to put extra text and get the crime report crime. So put some extra subject and then get the strings, so the crime report subject. So and then we're going to go ahead and start the report intent. So activities volunteering to send your crime report. So in here, when you click on send crime report, the operating system again is going to see the options that you have to go ahead and share or send this crime report with. So in here it says test 3. The crime was discovered on Monday, November 7th. The case is not solved, and there is no suspect. So this is the information you're going to be sending. And you can either copy it or share it using Drive, Gmail, or Messages. So then using a chooser, right? So how do we do that? So in the detail fragment, we're going to go ahead and use, we're going to go ahead and use the chooser intent, set that equal to create or intent.create chooser. We're going to report the intent and get the string to send the report. And again, in same detail fragment file, we're going to go ahead and we're going to register for a result. And we do this by using the private val to select suspect and register for the activity result. In this case, you just call in activity result contracts and then do dot pick a contact to be able to pick a contact. And here we're using the URI. Remember, the URI is just a pointer to where the data is located to handle the result. So then sending an implicit intent. And here we're going to go ahead and add the crime suspect that set on click listener. So this is the button. We're going to go ahead and select the suspect and launch it as null value. So then to choose the suspect button in the detail fragment again, we're gonna just go ahead and do crime suspect.text and then do a crime suspect if empty. We're gonna then go ahead and get the string for the suspect text. And this is how you would go ahead, or after doing this, you should be able to pull a list of possible suspects, so from your contacts list. So now invoking your function, we do this in the, again, detail fragment, and we go ahead and use the private val called select suspect, register for the activity result. Then they have the activity result contracts that pick contract. We go ahead and use the URI to go ahead and handle the result. So then pulling the context name out, how do we do this? We're actually going to have to go ahead and create a private function to be able to parse the contact selection using the URI. We go ahead and query or use the value called query fields, and it's an array of contexts, and we just want to display their names. After that, we're going to go ahead and use a value called query cursor, invoke the require activity and the content resolver query, and then we're going to use a contact URI, the query fields, and set the rest of the entries equal to null. Now adding the external queries to the manifest, how do we do that? We're going to go ahead and add an intent section. Sorry, queries first, and inside of the queries an intent section. And this intent section tells us the action that we want to do. In this case, we want to pick. And where do we want to pick from? We want to pick from the directory contacts. Okay. So then we have resolving intents. And we're going to go ahead and use a private function called can resolve intent. It's a boolean. So the value here we got the package manager, which requires the activity, and then we pull in the package manager to see what's available. Okay, so then we have the component name, which is the intent resolve activity package manager, and we're going to return the name of the component, not leaving it blank. So then guarding against no contacts. So what if you don't have a contact? Okay. So to do this, we're going to go ahead and select the suspect intent, contract.create intent, require context, and make sure that it require context and null. And so we have a crime suspect is enabled, and then can resolve intent, passing in the select suspect intent. So then we can add dummy code to verify the filter. You can go ahead and add the intent add category, and then the intent is just category home. So you then can so here's a disable choose suspect button. So deleting the dummy code, you can go ahead and just remove it. And that's it. Okay. So this is just some of the things that you should be able to look at for your final. Okay. So let's talk about the final for a little bit since we have assignment 7. All right. So for the final, so first, requires that you finalize your glucose monitor project app, okay? So one of the single glucose, so on the single glucose record screen, use the app bars menu to allow the user to send the existing daily entry displayed on the screen using the implicit intent. So you're going to go ahead and add this little icon here. And this icon is going to allow you to share your data with different apps. Okay, so you can send this to your doctor, to your friend, to a family member as a point. All right, so that's the first requirement. So once the user presses the action time, Your app should allow user to choose any app on the device and send out the glucose data description. Then use the system send icon in the below screen as the icon to send glucose action in the app bar. So make sure to use this icon, and this one should be able to send information. Now, for the second requirement is an additional feature. So in here, you get to be creative. You get to decide what you want to go ahead and add in your app. So in addition to implementing the feature in your app, you're also required to document the features and submit as part of your submission package. So you need to describe what is your feature, how to use the feature in the app, and which part of your code implements the feature. Okay, so the document should be named requirement underscore to feature, and then file text. So in this, it could be PDF, whatever it is. And title document for app feature of requirement. Okay, so some of the recommended implementation includes the delete button here. So this is a recommended one. If you can't think of anything, just do that delete one. Okay, but come up with your own. I've seen people add pictures. I've seen others add. I can't remember the other features, but many features I've seen. This is the most common one though. So if you can't think of anything, just go ahead and delete the entry. Okay. So so make sure, yeah, to turn in your app, the video, and that you have two working features, and describing what your feature does and where to find the code in your, or where to find the code for that feature in your code. Oh, I didn't notice. I wasn't sharing my camera. Okay, so again, this is what you're expected for the final, adding two features. One feature is to send, the other feature is of your choice. Okay, so I will be posting the announcement on what I talked about at the beginning of class with turning in the late assignments and still getting points for them. Um, so if you have any questions, please go ahead and send me an email. For next week, I'll go ahead and have a demo on sending that data as well as deleting and maybe an extra feature. But until then, I will see you. Please reach out to me if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.